Hello, welcome to the Wasting Time podcast. We are up to episode 22. This is Chris. I'm here with Nick. How's it going, Nick?
Hey man, yeah, I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's the Easter break. The place I work tends to give us like 7 days off for Easter, so that's not quite finished yet. So I'm making the most of that at the minute. How's things with you?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, busy Easter. Plenty of meetups with family and friends and stuff. So I guess I'm a bit out of touch in terms of what's going on in the punk rock world. But yeah, anything you kind of seen about?
Not too much, I don't think. I'm jealous of a couple of friends who are going to Grows Rock this weekend. You know, that festival down in Belgium.
Oh yeah, nice.
There's always like plenty of bands that will keep you and me occupied there. I think the big headline this year is Jawbreaker. I think it's Jawbreaker.
Right.
And they're also playing in London this weekend. Aside from that, there hasn't been too many new releases that have caught my eye personally. I saw Go on.
I did see Social Distortion have announced a pretty massive tour with Flog and Molly. That's I mean they must be getting on now. How old's Mike Ness?
Mike Ness.
You reckon?
I know he's born 1962 because it's a line in one of his songs. So
it's
so
like
he's nearly he's getting on for 60, isn't he?
It's like a 36-day tour. Imagine like booking a 36-day tour at the age of 60 odd, and a punk rock show as well. Like you know,
they've been a band since 1979, so it's like a 40-year thing, which is insanely impressive. Have you ever seen them live before?
I haven't, no, and I doubt they'll have anything left in the tank to because it's an American tour, isn't it? I'm not sure they'll have anything left to come over to Europe.
Yeah, that's a shame. I've been lucky enough to see them twice. I saw them when they were running out their 30-year anniversary tour in 2009, which was just great. And then I saw them 2 years after that when they were touring their last studio album that they put out.
Nice.
Both times it was just great. Like Mike Ness is just a class act. He's born for it.
Yeah, veterans, I guess.
Absolutely.
Talking of veterans, I did see the Millencolin video for their new single.
Oh, I didn't watch that.
Yeah, Sour Days. I mean, the video's all right. It's nothing to shout about, but I haven't actually properly listened to that song.
Do you like that Millencolin album?
Yeah, man. It's that track's really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's got some good pop punk songs on that. I'm looking forward to watching them at Slam Dunk next month.
Yeah, they're definitely on the list.
Another one I saw it's not out. It's coming out tomorrow, but I don't know how you feel about this band, but they're one of my favourites actually. Do you know that band Quiet Drive?
Oh yeah. I remember your love for Quiet.
Yeah. Oh, it's it still exists. So they haven't put out an album for 5 years, and they're pretty inactive. And they've just on their social media, they've just been teasing, putting out just like statuses saying tomorrow's date. So that suggests they're going to have some new music. Which
it sounds like that's a potential guest for the show. To be honest with you, seeing as we're interviewing band members from the early 2000 kind of reigns.
I have been trying to get him, Kevin, who sings for them. I will continue to work on that. Aside from that, nothing too much. So with that said, maybe we could just get into today's guest, because this is one that we put out on social media that we were having this guy on a while ago. Got like a lot of messages about that, questions for him and stuff, and it was one we've been excited about having for a while. So maybe we should get on with it. Do you want to say who it is?
Yeah, let's do it. So this is Tim from Allister.
So we're joined by Tim Rogner from Allister, all the way over in the Chicago suburbs, I believe.
Yes, all the way over in Chicago.
Thanks for being with us, Tim.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
I should just say, for the purpose of the podcast, I messed up. I thought we were recording before, so we just spoke to Tim about how he is and stuff, so I'm not going to put him through that again.
Yeah, no, we've just had like an hour-long conversation. I know. Now we have to do it all again, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Cool. Well, Tim, we usually kind of do these things we try to keep things in a bit of a chronological order. They don't always work out that way. Take us right back to kind of growing up, I guess, a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I was born in Chicago. I've lived here pretty much my whole life. I love it. I don't think I'll ever leave. It's funny, like with all the traveling that we've done, people always ask, well, where would you move to? And I always say, I don't think I'd move anywhere. I love Chicago. It's the greatest city in the world.
Has nowhere come close?
But yeah, what's that?
Has anywhere come close on your travels?
I mean, we've spent a lot of time in Japan, and I've gotten pretty partial to the Japanese culture and just a lot of the cities over there. So I don't think I would have a problem moving over there. As far as like other cities in the U.S. go, I'm a really big history nerd, and I love all kinds of things like U.S. history, and the majority of early U.S. history starts on the East Coast. So I like New York, I like Boston, kind of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., places on the East Coast I don't think I'd have a problem ever living in. Mm-hmm. I'm not one for the desert. People always say like, oh, you got to move to Arizona or Florida where it's hot all year round. It's, nah, that's not for me. I like the seasons.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you there.
we definitely want to get into the Japan stuff a bit later on, and but I guess in terms of growing up in Chicago, we had Chris Messer on our last podcast, and cool. he was talking about his upbringing in Chicago. So it'd be interesting to see how it compares to his. So yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Chris for a while. We've toured together a lot. I kind of grew up in. I mean, I guess I should be completely forthcoming here. Is that I'm not from quote unquote Chicago per se. I've grown up in the suburbs.
I was just gonna say. So how far out are we talking?
Like a maybe 30-minute drive, 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, that counts.
So yeah, it's not too far. But it's funny because a lot of people here get pretty pissed off if you say you're from Chicago when you're actually from the suburbs.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's one of those things. But yeah, so I grew up in like kind of the northwest suburbs of Chicago. My mom was a school teacher. My dad was a cop. So it was a pretty middle class, run-of-the-mill family. But my dad has played in a band ever since he was like 17, and he still plays in a band to this day. So he's been playing music for 50 years.
Oh wow!
And that's kind of where I got a lot of my musical influences from. Growing up, we always had musical instruments in the house: pianos, drum kits, guitars, bass guitars. And I would watch my dad. I remember pretty vividly, like being 6-7 years old, watching his band practice in our basement and just thinking it was the coolest fucking thing in the world. I was like, man, that's what I want to do.
What kind of stuff are they playing?
Yeah, they're a rock band. When they first kind of started off in the 70s, they did a lot of original songs. In fact, they were signed to a major label back in like 1976, I want to say. Wow. I think it was like A&M Records or something like that. They only released like one, I guess what we would consider now like an EP.
Yeah.
Of original stuff. But yeah, they were like a rock and roll band. Now they just primarily do covers.
Okay, so were they doing that full time around that time when they got signed to the major then?
I think they may have done it full time for like a year or two. Okay. It wasn't very long. Right. It was still pretty much a side gig.
I see. So he must have been proud, like watching you grow up, and you actually get to do it full time for a while. What's he think of the bands, Allister and the various bands you've played in over the years? Has he been a fan at all?
Yeah, he thinks it's pretty cool. You know, and that's the one thing that's pretty cool about both of my parents is that, they were always really super supportive of any kind of musical thing that I wanted to do. Whether or not they liked the music, they didn't care. They were just pretty excited that I was creating art and making music and doing something like that. So I am pretty grateful for that.
So do you start kind of get into bands when you're in school, or when did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, so I actually started playing drums. Drums was the first instrument that I learned how to play.
Because you were originally drummer in Allister, of course, weren't you?
Yeah. When Allister first started, I was actually the original drummer. And I probably started playing drums when I was like 12 or 13, maybe. Okay. Yeah. Just, noodling around on the old 1975 Slingerland kit that we had in our basement.
Right.
And, I just kind of learned how to play drums just by, listening to bands and listening to records. And then I started getting into punk rock when I was 14 or 15.
Right.
And I just kind of went from there. Like, there was a couple bands that I first started listening to, and I realized, man, this is the fucking greatest music I've ever heard in my life. This is what I want to play.
So I think I know which bands those are from listening to you before, but for the purposes of this, which bands were those?
Yeah, totally. I don't think it's any secret that,
Yeah.
Some of my favorite bands are Screeching Weasel,
Of course, yeah.
and the Queers,
Yeah.
Green Day.
Don't you have a
sure.
Screeching Weasel tattoo? Or am I?
What's funny is I actually have a Riverdale's tattoo.
Oh, okay.
So I like the Riverdales too. For whatever reason, when I went, I don't remember how old I was, 19 or 20, whenever I got this tattoo, and I meant to get a Screeching Weasel tattoo, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't pull the trigger, so I decided to get the 27 instead. Okay. At some point, I'm sure I'll get a Weasel tattoo.
Yeah.
So at what point did Allister kind of start to come together then? Is it kind of your late teens or?
Yeah, so we it was in high school. So I was probably like 16 or 17. And I started the band with my friend John. And we actually kind of the very beginnings of the band when John and I started playing together, we kind of put together a group with some other kids at school, and we played what we call like the variety show, is like the talent show at our school. And we did some ridiculous cover song, and so we jammed with those guys for a while, but none of them were really into the music that John and I were into, which was, like I said, the Queers and Screeching Weasel and stuff like that. And so once we graduated high school, John and I had written a bunch of songs, but we didn't really have a band. So we graduated high school, we both went off to college, and it was within the first week of college that John met Eric. He called me up and he's like, yeah, and he said, hey, man, I got this guy who wants to play bass for us. I was like, okay, sure. So Eric basically joined the band without me ever meeting him.
Oh, wow, okay.
And and then it just kind of went from there. So we started writing a bunch of songs. We recorded a few songs at a studio and sent it out to some labels. And
okay, so this is pre-Scotty then, is it?
Yeah, this was about a year or two before Scotty joined the band.
Okay. And how did you meet him?
Scott was friends with a girl that I dated in high school, and he was in another local band from Chicago called the Humdingers, and we had played together a couple of times, and through this girl, him and I kind of became friends, and we hung out occasionally, and we went to shows together and stuff like that, and then his old band broke up, and it just kind of seemed like the natural thing for him to join our band, because we had kind of always wanted a second guitar player.
Yeah.
Because at the time, we were just a three-piece. It was me on drums, Eric on bass, and John on guitar. And we kind of wanted to fill out the sound a little bit and get a second guitar player. So Scott joined the band to play bass, and Eric moved over to guitar.
Got it, yeah.
So then we were a four-piece.
So, I mean, obviously the kind of the big point of I guess Allister was that kind of signing to Drive Thru. What was the journey in terms of the lead up to that signing on with them?
It's kind of funny because way back then, this was probably 97. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were just a shitty garage punk band from Chicago, and I mean that's kind of what we still consider ourselves. But we had recorded a really, really terrible demo tape just in the basement of my house, like on some really old shitty 8-track.
Yeah. And
I think we recorded like 6 or 7 songs, and we sent those tapes out to some various record labels.
Yeah.
Indie DIY labels. And Drive Thru happened to be one of those. And they were really one of the only ones that actually responded to us, and they sent us this letter back. And it basically said, hey, you know what, we really like your songs, the sound quality is shit, but we really like the songs. And they were like, if you ever record something in a professional studio, send it to us, because we really dig this stuff.
Okay.
And we were like, wow, okay. And we kind of planned on recording a 7-inch and just releasing a 7-inch ourselves. And so we did that. We went in the studio, we recorded 5 songs, and we released a 7-inch ourselves. We sent Drive Thru a copy of that 7-inch, and they said, hey, man, we really like this. We want to help you release it, and we want to do a full-length record deal with you guys.
Okay. Was this, You Can't Do That on Vinyl, was it called?
Correct. Yeah, this was You Can't Do That on Vinyl. Yeah. We originally released that ourselves, and then Drive Thru kind of picked it up, and that's when they were like, hey, let's do a full-length record. And we were like, yeah, we have a bunch of songs pretty much ready to go. And so that's kind of where it went. And then within the year, we were out in California recording a full-length record. It was pretty surreal, man. It was pretty wild.
That's so cool. And that was, I know you talked about this on something else recently, but that was produced with one of the guys from one of their early bands, Cousin Oliver. Which I didn't know about until I heard that on that radio show that you were on the other day, which is kind of cool because I always used to listen to them a little bit like way back in the day. I remember they had a really catchy song. I remember
for sure.
A song called Share that had an amazing chorus. Maybe some lyrics that wouldn't be quite as acceptable in 2019, but they certainly
right. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But that's cool. So were you familiar with Cousin Oliver, or was it just kind of getting familiar with Drive Thru and it's like, oh, so this is another band on Drive Thru, cool, they're going to produce my record? Like, how was that at the time?
Yeah, I think all of us in the band were kind of peripherally aware of Cousin Oliver. I don't think they were like one of our favorite bands, but we definitely knew who they were, and we had heard some of their songs, like you said, that song Shared. So we knew who they were, but we didn't know any of the guys in the band. And when Drive Thru suggested that Ro produce our record, we're like, okay, yeah, cool. This is a guy who's recorded before, who seemed to know what he's doing. Yeah, let's get in and do it.
Okay, cool. And of course played the solo on that song, Pictures.
Yeah. Pictures on my wall. Yeah, he played that pretty gnarly shredding guitar solo.
I used to love listening to songs like that back when I was 17, man.
Yeah, we are collectively the world's worst guitar players. Right. So, listening to some guy just shredding the guitar is just fucking that must really cool for us.
So how many days did it? Can you remember like roughly how many days it took to track that album?
I think we were in the studio for a grand total of 5 days.
Okay. Because it does sound like it was tracked pretty quickly. I mean, not as a criticism, because I'm very fond of that album, but you know what I mean,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were in there for 5 days because it was, from what I remember, we had to squeeze it in. The studio was only open for like 5 days. They had a break, and so we basically had to finish the entire record in 5 days. So I remember, because like I said, back then I was playing drums.
Yeah.
And And I don't think any of the songs took more than 3 takes on the drums. I think we did every song in either 1, 2, or 3 takes. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It sounds like shit, and it was really too fast, but it's cool.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, I mean, was it really pretty much out on the road from there and a lot of touring, or was it pretty relentless on that front? Or
Yeah, After we finished recording Dead Ends and Girlfriends, because I think that came out in '98, and then it was just a matter of us playing as many shows as we could, and we were kind of stuck in this quandary where we just had this record come out, but we still had like a year and a half left of college, and we kind of wanted to graduate. We wanted to at least get to that step and like have our degree, just so that we had something to fall back on if we needed to.
Yeah.
And so we made the decision to do that, and we stuck it out in school for another year, or year and a half, or whatever it was. And we played as much as we could. We took the summers off, and we toured during the summers. And then during the school year, we would play, as many weekends as we could, wherever we could, whenever possible. So then after we graduated was when we really started kind of touring full time.
So when you graduated, what year are we at this point, roughly?
So this was 2000.
Oh, okay. So still a couple of years before, the next record and stuff.
Yeah, and
So,
so yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just so was that the touring in that period? Was that mainly just in the States and Canada, or did you get further afield during that period?
Yeah, that was really only in the U.S. I don't even know. I think the first time we played Canada probably wasn't until like '02.
Oh, okay. So much further along.
Yeah,
Was that when
yeah, maybe '01.
something's just come back to me because, like, I look at that blog you write every now and then, with like, where you put up some of your old tour stories and stuff, and I feel like
Right.
was there one where maybe it wasn't the first time you went to Canada, but it was one of the early times when you were going to play some shows with Gob, and like there was some issues on the border because you had all this merch.
Oh,
with you.
right.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
I'm
it's-
not imagining this, am I? Yeah, I
No,
remember
you're not
that.
imagining that. That actually did happen. Yeah, that was. Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, that was probably one of the first, either the first or second time we tried to get into Canada.
Okay.
Because I remember Dave, our drummer, was still in the band at that point.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a funny story. We there's always hassles and paperwork and customs that you have to go through when you go to a different country, and so we decided in our collective genius that we didn't want to go through those hassles, and so on our way up to the Canadian border, we were only supposed to play like 2 shows with Gob.
Mm-hmm. So
And,
Gob presumably were quite big at that time, were they?
Yes, they were very big at that
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
I think this was in New Brunswick too, if I
Okay.
remember correctly. And so we were driving up to the border, and on the way to the border, we decided, okay, well here's the story we're gonna tell the Border Patrol is that yes, we're in a band, but we're not playing shows. We just had like a couple of days off, and we're going to see our friend's band play. and so
Yeah.
we get up to the border, and they take us all out of the car, and we all tell our stories, and they're like,
Yeah.
nah, we don't believe you. We're not letting you in. And so we weren't let into the country.
So you never got to play those.
No, we never got to
shows,
play
that's
those shows. No,
Oh,
they didn't
man.
let us in. So we were stuck in Maine, the state of Maine, for like 2 days with nothing to do.
Cool. Well, I guess wanted to fast forward a bit to kind of Last Stop Suburbia. I guess that was, well, definitely in Europe. I think that's kind of really what put you guys on the map over here. Is it safe to say
Yeah.
that it's the same over your way as well?
Yeah, I think so. Because that record, Last Stop Suburbia, came out right when, at the very beginning of when Drive Thru started to really kind of make a name for themselves. We were still, Allister was actually one of the earliest bands, like one of the first bands that Drive Thru signed. I think we signed with them before Newfound Glory ever did, before Midtown did. Like at the time, I think it was us and RX Bandits and like this band Unleaded Plus. Maybe another
So
band
Last
from-
Stop Suburbia was kind of when everyone was listening to everything on Drive Thru kind of thing.
Or just the
Yeah, it
start
was
of
one
that, basically. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of the start of that period.
Was-
So I think that helped. That helped us a lot.
Was your formula kind of any different going into that record and recording and writing that or was it kind of business as usual kind of deal?
That was with Last Stop Suburbia. That was the first time that we actually sat down to write songs. Like about maybe 4 months before we went in to go record that record, we rented a rehearsal space here in Chicago. It was the first time we'd ever done something like that, and we made it a point to go in every day. We were working, part-time jobs at that time, so every day after work, we would go into the rehearsal space and we would, practice for 2 hours, and we would just try to write songs. And that was the first time we'd ever done that, and it was pretty cool. It was a different experience for us.
Yeah.
And I think we probably wrote maybe half of the record like that. Maybe 5 to 6, 7 songs that got used on Last Stop Suburbia were written in that practice space.
Oh, okay. And also, obviously, so like directly after the record was when Johnny left the band. Was he? Had he decided before recording that record that he was going to pursue a different path, or was it slightly just after it, or was it like how did that come about? Because
I think
obviously
it was during the
go on.
recording of that record.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was from what I remember, yeah, it was kind of in the middle of recording that record. We had a couple of tours lined up for when we were done.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna stick it out to do these tours, and I'll finish this up, but such and such date is gonna be my last day with the band," which was like 3 or 4 months down the road, and we're like, "Okay." I mean, it was all well and fine. I think it worked out perfectly because he gave us enough time to look for some other guitar players and kind of figure out what we were gonna do.
Did you was that a bit sad for you, given that you and him originally started the band together? Like, because obviously you'd been on a journey for a number of years at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I think John and I had a lot of chemistry just writing songs together. We kind of envisioned songwriting in kind of the same way. So yeah, it was a little bit sentimental when he left the band.
Yeah, sure.
But I knew it was something that I wanted to continue to do, so I didn't want to stop.
Yeah, fair. And was that when you brought in your brother? Did your brother come in at that point?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's when he joined the band for a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
You weren't playing drums still at this point, though?
No, at this point I was playing guitar. Yeah, so at the time of recording Last Stop Suburbia, it was myself, Scotty, John, and we had gotten a drummer named Dave. And so that was the lineup that recorded that record. And then it was funny because John told us, like I said, during the recording of that record that he was going to be leaving. And so we took all the photos for that record after the record was finished being recorded. And so you'll see, that's why my brother's in the photos for.
Of course,
yeah.
I was going to say, how long did you stick at those part-time jobs after that record got released then? Because surely it was pretty crazy from there, right?
Yeah, so that record, I believe, I want to say it came out in October of 2002. And it was, I think that was the last time that we had kind of been working those jobs. And so it was pretty much from then on was when we, quit to do the band full time. I think maybe when we kind of came home from various tours, we all, did a little bit here and there to earn some extra cash. Mm-hmm. But it was primarily when that record came out is when we did it full time.
Okay. When that first happened, presumably that felt nice, did it, having kind of been pursuing it for a few years at that point?
It did. Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely something different, but it was nice not having to work for anyone else.
Right. Okay. So, so those tours that you mentioned that Johnny said he'd do, the ones that followed immediately after the record, who are those with? Were they like bigger scale tours, or was it similar to the ones you've been doing before?
Well, I think one of them was Warped Tour of 2002.
Oh, okay. Was that the first Warped Tour you did?
I believe so. Yeah,
right.
It was the first Warped Tour that we did, because then it was right after that, I think, when my brother joined the band. And I want to say there was, and that probably lasted us the whole summer, because the record was recorded, I want to say, in March of 2002, and then it came out in October of 2002. So yeah, that whole summer was when we did the first Warped Tour.
And then you must have been in Europe not too soon after that, right? I seem to remember seeing you guys on a Drive Thru tour. I don't know if it was with Homegrown, Chris, was it?
Yeah, no, that was a little later. The first time, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but the first time I was aware of Allister coming to, I don't know about Europe, but the UK certainly was actually opening for Less Than Jake.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, and that was what, 04 maybe?
No, that was 03. It was 03,
Was it 03?
And then the one that Nick's referring to when the Drive Thru tour was early 04.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
I'm
the first
weird
time
like that with
Chris has a crazy, scary memory.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I'll tell you what, yeah, man. I mean, for us, like a lot of those tours just kind of all blend together, so it's sometimes hard to remember exact dates. But yeah, that UK tour that we did for the first time with Less Than Jake and the Teen Idols,
that's
High Tasters was, man. That tour took probably 10 years off my life. For sure.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was one of the best tours that we've ever done. I'll never forget it.
Any stories that stand out from those couple of weeks or however long it was?
Um,
Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm
like he
trying
probably
to
doesn't
think.
remember any of them.
No, I mean, there's probably a lot of stuff I don't remember. But that was the first time we were in the UK. So for us, I think we wanted to see a lot of things, because none of us had ever been over there before.
Oh,
So we
like
did a
not
lot of
at all, yeah.
sightseeing.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and we got to see a lot of cool shit. We went to a lot of castles. We went to Stonehenge. We did that kind of touristy thing, which was pretty fun. And we just drank ourselves silly every night.
So when was that first Japan trip then? Obviously you've got a fond affiliation with Japan. When did when was your first experience of Japan?
Yeah, I think that was in '02. I think that was either right when Last Stop Suburbia came out, either right before or right after. It was somewhere around then. We got to go over. We actually went over there with Homegrown. And
Oh, right, okay.
yeah, the first trip over to Japan was with those guys, and I think we were there for like 5 or 6 days, and we toured with this Japanese band called Nicotine, and it was great. It was so different than anything we had ever experienced in our entire lives, and we had such a good time that we tried to make it a point to kind of keep going back, and we did, and every time we went back, it was more and more successful.
So how many times have you been out there? Well, in terms of kind of tours.
I think we counted because we were just there, a couple of weeks ago, and I think we counted. That was our 7th time over there. It was either 7 or 8.
Okay. And you kind of just fell in love with the place, right? It's I guess pop punk bands do quite well over there. You see a lot of the bands kind of doing well, but you especially, I guess. Was it just a case of all of you just loving the place from the first time you went out there?
Yeah, I think
eager to go back.
Yeah, one of the things that really helped us was back in 2006, we did a tour over in Japan with this Japanese band called El Garden.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
At the time, they were like literally one of the biggest bands in Japan. Like they could have played stadiums pretty much every night, but they had the same kind of punk rock ethos as we did, and they liked playing small club shows. And so we were over in Japan in 2006 for almost 3 months, touring with those guys, and we got to play every major city in Japan. We got to play, tons of small cities. And we really got to experience like Japanese culture and Japanese lifestyle. And it was probably the greatest 3 months of my life. And to this day, I feel pretty fortunate that we were able to do that. And I think that really helped us out too, because, we got to play so many shows over there and really help build up a name for ourselves. So the last time when we were just there 3 weeks ago, every show was sold out. We were playing big venues. Like, it was really, really cool.
That must be amazing, and must have been nice to see the El Garden guys again.
Yeah, it was really good. We have a lot of fond memories from that trip with those guys. Yeah. So yeah, it was definitely cool.
And am I right in saying Scotty lives out there now, or he spent a good amount of time living out there?
Yeah, he moved out there. I want to say 5 years ago, and he's lived out there permanently for about the last 5 years.
Wow. Does he do music full time still these days? Because obviously he's got the thing with the Weezer, Rivers Cuomo, and he's had his own solo stuff. So is he just a full time musician out there?
Yeah, that's what he does now. He does music full time. He actually plays in a band with the singer from El Garden, and they play in a band called Mono Eyes, and he does that a good majority of the year, and they're huge over there too. They play massive venues, and so yeah, he's lived over there for 5 years and just does that full time now.
Nice. Well, I don't know if you want to maybe jump into the 20 years and counting stuff.
Totally.
Kind of. It was great to hear. I think we all enjoyed getting back into some of that old stuff. How did that come about? Was it your idea? Was it kind of one of the other guys' ideas? What was the process for getting that put together?
I don't really remember exactly whose idea it was. I think we had just kind of all started talking. I think we had started talking about maybe doing another tour in Japan. And Scotty had said, if we do that, we need to have another record. And we were like, well, it's the 20-year anniversary basically of our band. Maybe we could do like an anniversary record, and Universal Japan was really into that idea. Maybe they had even suggested it. I don't really recall. But and it just kind of came together from there. We started talking about it probably in the spring. It was actually just about a year ago that we started discussing maybe doing something like that. And it came together fairly quickly. Once we got the go-ahead and Universal said, yeah, we'll release something like that, then it was just a matter of logistics, like figuring out which songs to re-record, which songs we wanted to include from, the rest of our catalog. And the cool part about it was that we recorded it. We did the drums at a studio in Indiana called Always Be Genius, but then the rest of it, we just recorded in my house.
Yeah, that's ace.
Yeah, technology is pretty rad, and so we were able to do that.
And presumably Scotty would do his parts where he lives and send them to you.
Yeah, exactly. So we would just record our parts and then send them back and forth to each other.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and then we just sent all the files to our buddy Mark, who mixed it all, and I think it sounds great, man. I was really happy with it.
It does. In terms of re-recording the songs, was that done because you didn't have Universal Japan didn't have the rights to those songs, so they had to be re-recorded, or
Correct.
would you have re-recorded them if that wasn't the case anyway?
No, we probably wouldn't have re-recorded them.
Okay.
Because those, so like the songs on Dead Ends and Girlfriends and Last Stop Suburbia and Before the Blackout, Drive Thru owns the recording rights to those songs, so we couldn't use those recordings, but Allister owns the rights to the songs themselves, so we were allowed to re-record them and re-release them. So that's kind of why we did it like that.
But it was literally all from scratch, from the bottom up for those then.
Yeah. I mean, from like you said, from scratch, totally. But it was cool because it gave us a chance to kind of revisit some of those old songs and maybe add a couple parts here and a couple parts there to make them maybe slightly more current and sound a little bit cooler.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, like, when I saw you announce that, like, on Twitter maybe a month before it came out, I got quite excited. I was like, oh, it'd be super fun to hear some of these old songs.
That's cool.
Given a makeover, basically.
Right.
Was it just two songs off Dead Ends that you used in the end? Jacob and Mopa, I think.
Yeah, just those two.
Yeah. Presumably there were a couple others in the running, because I remember reading on your blog ages ago about the song Timings, and you were like, I would quite like to re-record this song one day, so presumably that was a contender as well.
It was, yeah, that one was definitely in the mix. It was, I don't want to say like it was a hard process to figure out what songs to re-record, but we did put a little bit of thought into it. We didn't want to do too many from Dead Ends and Girlfriends, only because, that record is so old and those songs are so old. We wanted to try to keep things a little bit current. So we tried to kind of narrow it down, and we felt like, Moper and Jacob would be the ones that we kind of liked the best and that were best in line for a makeover.
In the years after that album, those would be the two that you would tend to play live, if any at all. So it would make sense that you'd pick those ones to.
Yeah. Generally speaking, those were the ones we did live.
But no, as a fan as well, it's really cool to hear those songs done again, because like that, as I say, Dead Ends and Girlfriends, I remember getting, because I'd heard you guys on the compilation in the summer of 2000, so I used to listen to the album a lot, and then hearing Mopa redone, and it takes me back to those days and stuff. So.
That's cool.
But yeah, I can see how it must be fun for you guys, obviously, as well.
Yeah, it was. It was interesting because all of us in the band, I think, still a little bit kind of have an old school mindset, and so we kind of want to keep moving forward instead of looking back. And we were a little bit worried that, if we re-recorded some of these songs, it might alienate some people from listening to us. because we're kind of under the mindset like, hey, these songs, that was at a time and a place that we recorded them. Let's just kind of leave them alone. But also at the same time, I think there is, a segment of fans who kind of would like to hear something re-recorded, and maybe,
of course,
refreshed a little bit. So, we thought it was pretty cool.
Obviously, there was a few new songs on there. Had you had quite a few written to pick from, or was it just those ones?
Yeah, no, we probably had maybe eight to 10 songs to choose from, as far as new songs go, and those kind of seem to be collectively the ones that would make the most sense. And that was kind of fun too, because as a band, Allister hasn't really released anything new since 2012 when we put out Life Behind Machines, and so that was really cool to be able to do some new songs with the guys again. Was really neat, and we're hoping that we can kind of parlay this into another brand new full length at some point, maybe next year.
Nice. Yeah, cool.
Well, I suppose if you manage to get this together, there's no reason, in theory, why that shouldn't be doable for you guys. I'm sure Universal Japan would be happy to put it out again.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of what we talked about. When we did this 20 years and counting, it was, I don't want to say it was an easy effort, but it was, relatively painless. And I think we all kind of realized, hey, man, we can do it like this, and it's going to sound great, and it's going to be cool. So let's think about really, doing this. And so we're kind of trying to work out some logistics about doing all that and trying to get a bunch of songs together so that hopefully next year we can release a brand new full length.
In terms of playing music outside of Allister, I know obviously you're doing the odd solo show here and there. What's the deal with Hot Alice? Is that still an ongoing thing?
Yeah, in fact, we just practiced last weekend. It's just a side project that I started up to play stuff that was maybe a little more rock and roll type.
Yeah.
And it's just something to kind of keep busy. I started the band a while ago, probably 5 years ago, when Allister had kind of stopped playing so much, just as something for me to do, just as another outlet to write music and, get together with guys and just jam. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're actually writing a bunch of songs right now. We got a couple of shows coming up over the summer, and we're hoping to record at least an EP or something by fall, and get that out. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's just my brothers in the band and some friends of ours. We just kind of get together, drink beer, and play rock and roll.
Nice. Is he still doing what's the deal with August Premiere? Are they doing much these days?
No, they're not really doing a whole lot these days. In fact, I don't even remember when their last show was. I filled in on guitar for them for their last 2 or 3 shows, but I don't think they're collectively really doing much anymore.
I had a little bit of a question around, your touring life as well. What is it? Is there anything that really, any particular tours that stood out for you, or any particular bands specifically that you particularly had a lot of fun touring with?
Yeah, I think there's a couple tours that stand out as far as fun goes. That Less Than Jake tour with the Teen Idols in the UK was definitely very cool. We shared a van with the Teen Idols, so I think there was 9 of us in one of those Sprinter vans, and like I said, that was the first time we were over there, and we drove ourselves. We didn't have a driver, and so it was a little bit interesting driving on the right side of the car on the left side of the road. So that was kind of fun for the first time. But that was cool. I think any of the tours that we did with Homegrown, we got to be pretty good friends with those guys. All the Drive Thru tours that we did with them, the Japan tour we did with those guys, was a lot of fun. And I'm trying to think of some of the other tours.
Are you still friends with the Homegrown guys to this day?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
we
nice,
don't
nice.
talk too much anymore, and because we haven't had a chance to get out to California, I don't get a chance to see them. But every once in a while, I'll message them, and we'll talk for a minute, and they're. I mean, I miss those guys. It'd be nice to hang out with them again.
Sure. So are they? So presumably they're your closest friends from all the Drive Thru roster and those
Yeah,
days. Would you say?
yeah, I would
Okay.
definitely say so. Um,
Yeah.
we had one of the first tours we actually did too, was with that band, the Benjamins. I don't know if you guys
Yeah, yeah. I
listen.
remember them. I feel like Drive Thru were all about them briefly, and then just kind of dropped them a little bit. That's how
Yeah,
it seemed to me.
they
Yeah.
were kind of like the hot thing for like 5 or 6 months, and then I
Yeah.
think they had
Totally.
kind of stopped playing, or I don't know exactly what happened with them, but
Yeah.
we did a tour with those guys for about a month, and that was really fun. And we got to be pretty good friends with those guys too. In
Okay.
fact, I still talk to Ben every once in a while.
Okay.
So, but yeah, those guys were cool. But yeah, as far as like other drive-through bands, I think those two were definitely some of our better friends.
Right.
And then
Right.
the Less Than Jake guys are cool. Obviously, we did we did a
Yeah.
couple tours with those guys. One in the UK, and then we did another in the US. That was really fun too.
Who? I mean, you don't have to answer this, obviously, but anyone who stood out as your least favorite. I'm only trying this just because Chris Messer, when we spoke to him, was so candid about
He
everything.
didn't hold back. He didn't hold back.
He did not
He
hold
did
back.
all back,
Anyone-
yeah. Well, no, I mean, there were bands that I didn't necessarily care for.
Right.
Back then. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd say you could basically pick out of a hat any of the first 5 or 6 bands that were signed right around the same time that we were. Um,
Okay.
but it was a different mindset for us back then. I think a lot of those bands, like Midtown, like Newfound Glory, like the Starting Line. I think those guys viewed what they were doing as they wanted to get as big as possible. And at the time, that wasn't the Allister ethos. That wasn't what we just wanted to play punk rock. We wanted to kind of keep it, DIY. And we wanted to do our own thing. We had no real outward interest in getting as big as we possibly could. So I think, there was a little bit of a different mentality between us and some of those bands, so we didn't always mesh personally. Um, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. You know what I mean?
No, of course. Yeah, no, that's a very fair answer.
What kind of stuff are you into these days? Then are you still listening to quite a lot of punk rock, or have you got a bit more of a? I guess I've grown a little bit older and got
I
a bit
do.
more diverse,
Yeah, man,
diverse with my music.
Yeah, I don't know how much my musical interests have expanded over the last 20 years or so. I still listen to a lot of punk rock. That's my go-to, pretty much on a daily
Yeah.
basis.
Is
But
there any like newer bands who have impressed you over like the last 5 or so years up until now, or is it more bands from your era?
yeah, it's mostly bands from my era. It's so hard to say too because we're not on the road and because we're not in it full time anymore. I don't
Yeah.
really have my finger on the pulse of what people like anymore these days.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I will tell you, we played our record release show for this new record, 20 Years and Counting.
Oh yeah, of course.
We
Recently, yeah.
Yeah, we did it in Chicago, and we played
Yeah.
with this band called Parker, and they're from Chicago here as well, and they're pretty cool. They're a good band. They're not necessarily brand new. I think they've been doing it for a little while, but I don't know how much name recognition they have. But they're cool. If you get a chance to check them out, I would because
Yeah,
they're
it's part. I'll link them in the show notes. I think it's Parker in all capital letters. I actually checked them out on the basis of them playing with you guys.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they're cool.
yeah,
cool.
they were very cool.
I
Yeah,
think-
I had never
yeah.
heard of them before, but
Mhm.
they left a pretty good impression on me. They're cool, and they're cool guys too, which definitely helps.
So I guess what about kind of outside of music these days? Like you talk about, you've got two young kids. Kind of what else are you up to?
Yeah, these guys keep me busy every day. But no, I work. I work full time for for a life insurance company. I'm like a, I guess you would call it a training designer. So I just design training programs and deliver training programs and stuff like that. It's a job. It pays the bills, and it's cool. But I am trying to really focus now on releasing another solo record, just like an acoustic EP. I've gotten kind of into playing folk pop acoustic stuff lately. So I've been writing a bunch of songs like that, so I want to try to release that this year too. And then playing with Hot Alice, and hopefully doing more stuff with Allister.
Nick, I've just spotted something that we were going to ask before, just based on our chat with Chris Messer, just a throwaway question, but because Chris Messer was obviously did the get-go with Carl and Scott, obviously your mates. So if you were going to start a new band with, bands from your genre that you grew up playing with and touring with, who would be in your lineup if you could choose anyone? Sorry to put you on the spot again.
Hypothetical question. There's no rules here. Just to
no, that's actually
what's
a
your
good
super
question.
group?
I've never thought about that before. Well, I'm trying to think of the people individually that I would most like to play in a band with. And it would probably be for sure Darren from Homegrown, so he would have to play drums. Man, maybe Ben from the Benjamins would have to play bass.
Okay, yeah.
Man, who would I have on guitar? Man, I don't know who I have. I'm trying to think of all the bands that we would tour with. Phil from the Teen Idols was pretty fucking gnarly.
Okay.
I think it might be pretty cool to have him on the guitar. Because that way, we could obviously do any Screeching Weasel cover that we wanted to, which would be fun. And write kind of songs in that genre.
Yeah.
But no, that would be pretty cool.
We threw out we announced obviously that you were coming on, which you kindly retweeted for us, so thanks for that. But I just asked if anyone had any questions. So a couple came in here and there. Nick, do you want to lead on this one?
Yeah, we got a question from T-Bow in Paris. He's asking about how did you end up in the Sleepover movie? What was that experience like? He said, and he also asking what's the deal with pop punk bands always popping up in teen movies, basically.
Yeah, I think he gave Good Charlotte in Not Another Teen Movie as the instance in that.
Oh man, that's funny. That was a pretty fucking wild experience, man.
Oh yeah.
I don't shit. When was that? Was that 2003? I think 2003, maybe
2004. 2004. He referenced it in the question, so I believe it was 2004.
Yeah, that sounds right. So from my understanding, is that the producers from Sleepover had approached Drive Thru because they liked a lot of the bands on the Drive Thru catalog, and they said, would any of your bands be interested in being in this movie? And I guess Drive Thru gave them a couple of different names, a couple different bands, and the producers said, okay, well, of those, I think we kind of like Allister the best. We think they would, whatever make for the best part in this movie. And so they Drive Thru kind of sent us this. They said, hey man, there's this movie that's interested in having you guys on, and we didn't know how to react. Because like I said, back then we had this DIY mindset, right? We for lack of a better term, we were very hesitant to quote unquote sell out. And we sort of kind of looked at that as well, that's kind of selling out to the man, But at the same time, it was also a pretty cool opportunity, and we were like, well, we don't really want to lose this opportunity because it would be pretty cool to do it. And so, we ended up doing it. It actually was really fun. I mean, I do have to say it was a very interesting experience. It was nothing I really expected.
Right.
But I remember they sent us a copy of the script for us to kind of read through, and there were about 6 or 7 lines that they wanted me to say, while kind of we were on stage, and some of them were just horrendous. I was like, I don't know if I can say these. These lines are ridiculous. I was like, what the fuck? And so we ended up, the day or I think we were in Southern California shooting for 4 days, maybe, shooting our scenes.
Right.
And so it comes to the day where we're supposed to be I'm supposed to be delivering these lines on stage, and like I start delivering these lines, and they're like, "Oh, cut," and so like they're having conversation, and so they ended up cutting all of my lines except for one, because I think they realized I had no fucking idea what I was doing at all. Which thankfully it worked out okay, because like I said, some of the lines were pretty ridiculous. But it did, like I said, it did make for a pretty interesting experience, and it was pretty cool to be in a movie that was released in theaters, and to kind of have our music in there, and kind of be on screen. It was fun.
Another question we had was from Matt Cox in London, who I guess he clearly follows your career closely, because he's referencing the cover album that you put out, which I think was only out in Japan.
Correct, yeah.
I guess he just wants to know if there's anything like that in the future, but
probably nothing.
I guess that's
like
difficult to answer.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything like that in the future. That was, and I guess I kind of forgot to touch on that earlier when we were talking about Japan. That was another thing that kind of helped catapult us a little bit in Japan, is that we put out that record, right before we did that El Garden tour. And so that's kind of, what we were selling at a lot of the shows, and it sold really well. It actually went gold over in Japan, which was pretty exciting. But it was a fluky thing. Scotty had this idea. He's like, hey, if we're going to go back to Japan, like, let's kind of do this record. It might be kind of fun to, cover, half Japanese songs, half U.S. songs. We could, at the time he had been studying Japanese, and he can speak it fluently now. He's like, I think it might be cool to like sing some songs in Japanese. And we were like, okay, sure, let's do it. And so we did, and it worked out really well.
Cool. We've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, totally.
One is around potentially coming back to the UK and Europe. Obviously, you're talking about potentially recording some more stuff. I mean, is there any chance of seeing you back over this side of the water?
I would absolutely love to. It's hard, like I said, because all of us kind of work, full-time jobs now, and all of us have families and have kids and stuff. So it's hard to get all of our schedules together at the same time. We're trying to put together like a small U.S. tour for over the summer right now. I don't know if it's going to happen, but as of right now, I don't think as a band we have any plans to come over to the UK. Although I would like to. That may change. Maybe in October or November, maybe we could come over for a week. It just kind of depends on all of our schedules. So we'll kind of have to see. Right now, it's still kind of up in the air, unfortunately.
Fair. Yeah, the only other question we had was someone said, is the radio still playing all night long? Very witty from Carl.
Very, very witty. You gotta love that British humor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you can say the radio is still playing all night long.
Okay, Tim, we don't want to keep too much more of your time, because we've already been going for an hour.
No, it's all good, man.
I know. You've got a busy Saturday ahead of you, so...
Yeah, really appreciate your time, mate. Yeah, really enjoyed chatting to you anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, man. This was a lot of fun.
So that was our chat with Tim. Yeah, big thanks to Tim for coming on.
Yeah,
thanks to all. Thanks. Yeah, thanks to all you guys for your questions. We're going to try and keep that as a bit of a running thing with Up and Come Podcast, seeing as we've got the new format with lots of guests. So. It's really great to get your questions and keep them coming, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Tim was a really cool guest. We've got some other guests that we hopefully will excite some people. So we're certainly excited about them. We'll be announcing some of those soon. And as ever, if you could subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, that'd be much appreciated. And give us a like on social media, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, likes and shares are much appreciated to spread the word. Yeah, looking forward to our next guest anyway.
Cool. All right, Nick. I will see you on the next one.
All right, cheers, buddy. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.